Okay, so finally what we're going to do is we're going to edit each of our pictures, and we'll have to do some editing together and some separately. So I'm going to show you how to use a clipping mask to do that. So let's start with our main picture and get that looking how we want first, because that's what's going to draw people in first. So we're going to click on the photo, the main photo. So in my case, it says clone stamp. Then we're going to go to the bottom and click new adjustment layer. And let's start with levels to increase that contrast, because it's pretty dark at the moment. Go to the highlights and let's bring those up quite a bit. And then we'll go to the shadows. Now, we don't want to bring the shadows down too much because you can see we lose all of the details in the coat. So let's barely bring that down. I'm at 3. And midtones is where we want to start to bring down some of that value. Okay. And then let's see, we can bring those highlights up even more. That seems kind of extreme, but it does bring out that contrast a lot better. Now, I want you to get in the habit when we're working with multiple pictures to use a clipping mask. So if you are in Photoshop, on the bottom of this, you're going to see a shape. Let's see if it'll show it here. Nope, it's going to be a box with an arrow pointing down. That's your clipping mask. Okay, if you're in Photopea like I am, you're going to right click and you're going to click on clipping mask. Okay, so there'll be an arrow pointing down. So if you're in Photoshop, that's what you're looking for. That's going to apply it just to the layer below it only, so this clone stamp. Now we also want to increase the contrast for this picture, but it's going to look different because the values are already different. So we want to click here, add a levels, and then before we change the levels, let's right click and do clipping mask right away. Otherwise, here, I'm going to undo that. Otherwise, what's going to happen is when we do this, you can see it's changing it for both pictures. Okay, so we don't want it to change for both pictures. We just want it to change for the tree picture. So let's right click, click clipping mask, so the arrow down to that one. And then we can get the values looking somewhat similar. So we'll bring highlights up a little ways, shadows down, and then midtones down. All right, so that's looking pretty even overall. So next, our color balance is off between these two. This one's blue and this one's a little bit more neutral or warmer. So we're going to go back to the board picture and then go to the bottom and click color balance. So blue and yellow are opposite. So if we bring the blues down just a little bit, and I'm in the shadows right now. I don't want to do a lot. Let's switch to midtones. We can bring that down a little bit. We don't want to really see a yellow tint. We just want to start to feel like there's less blue in there. Opposite of red is cyan, so we could actually increase the reds maybe a tiny bit. And look at that. That looks much closer, a little more balanced that way. All right, final piece. Since these are pretty similar, we could try one more thing. Let's clip our color balance just so we know where it's going to. If you click on your top layer, levels 2, and do a levels on top without doing a clipping mask, then we could do our last final adjustments for both of them. Bring down the midtones, bring up the highlights, and that's got good contrast for both of them. One last thing, because this is going to make a difference. Let's find out. So we lose some of our details in the jacket on our levels 1. So what you could do is click on the clipping mask, go to the paintbrush, paint with black in the mask. And I'll just show you what this does, and then you can choose to do this. And then what's going to happen, we don't want it to be that harsh of an edge, but what you could do is you could paint in the area that you don't want to apply the adjustment, in this case, the levels, and it's going to bring that out. So you can do that on your own as well. All right, final piece of this would be, in this case, let's go to the top layer. Let's do vibrance and see if there's any colors that we want to bring out. The green is already pretty bold, and that's really the boldest color, the only color that's in here. So in this case, we won't really do a lot because that stands out already really nicely, but in yours, you'll need to increase that All right, you are going to save this as both a Photoshop document, so a PSD, and then export it as a JPEG and upload that to your Google Drive Skill Builder 5 folder.